Welcome to Werezilla's Retrospective. I'm your host, Werezilla. What happens when you take illegal animal fights, give said animals superpowers, as well as enjoyment of the battles and loving care from their owners? What do you think?
A very memorable series from the 90s, Pokemon spread like wildfire. And why wouldn't it? The goal of catching all Pokemon will keep anyone occupied for a very long time.
I mean, seriously, how am I supposed to collect all of them? The first game had 150 alone. Every game since then have added similar, if not greater, numbers.
Okay, I exaggerate. Some games, specifically the ones that are not named after a color, gemstone, or chromosome, in the case of the current generation, have you doing other things, like the Mystery Dungeon series, where you are a Pokemon going on your own adventure with not a single trainer to be found. There are, of course, various other games that also take the series in other directions besides catching them all.
And variety is what keeps a series alive and away from Boredom Town. Today's topic, however, is not quite up to par. Good thing I'm already in an armchair with a TV facing towards me as we speak, because it's time to talk about Pokemon Channel.
We open with a group of Magnemite delivering a brand new TV to your house, with a wild Pikachu, Trico, and Torchic taking notice. It turns out this TV was brought to you by Professor Oak, for you apparently volunteered to be the test audience for a new series of Pokemon-themed shows. Now, there is an exclusive anime special in this game, but it's split into 5 parts, and I'd rather discuss it all together instead of separately, so I'll just summarize the whole thing towards the end. Needless to say, after part 1, the 3 wild Pokemon show up, with only Pikachu staying. Oak then suggests you let it stay and see its reaction to the shows as well.
Well, okay, except for the fact that you're letting in a wild Pokemon. If it was one of my own, fine, but this is akin to having a rabid raccoon barge into my house and having animal control encouraging me to keep it.
And for the record, you can go outside in this game, but on this first day, Pikachu won't let you go out until you've watched all the channels. This is what happens when you let a wild Pokemon into your home. You become a prisoner in your own house. Pika Pika!
Oh no. Hey! Open this door!
Pikachu! Pikachu!
Not funny, you shock-inducing little rodent!
Pikachu!
No, but I do understand situational irony.
Might as well see what we got. Psyduck has the news, Slowpoke predicts the weather, and Wobbuffet is hosting his own quiz show, which basically boils down to...
Who's that Pokemon? It's Cubone! Cubone, bone.
And probably the most ironic part of all is Smoochum's workout channel. Yes, exercise channels do exist, but for a game that encourages us to sit on our ass and watch TV, that's hard not to be ironic. Also, we have Shoppin' Squirtle. Are we sure this game is meant for kids? That allows you to buy Pokemon merchandise. In the game, I mean. A Delbird won't really arrive at your house in real life and give you stuff that you bought in a game.
Besides, I get my mail from a cross-eyed Pegasus. Though a Delbird probably would get my packages to me intact more often.
Oak is pleased with the player's progress so far, but then Pikachu accidentally destroys the TV. And yet you're still in contact with Oak. How? Is he talking on Skype, or is that Pikachu actually his and is some kind of plant to spy on you? With that scary thought in mind, his Magnemites bring a black and white TV to temporarily replace it. He'll have a new one the next day.
Yes, this game actually wants you to play over the course of a few days. Or you could just do what I did and change your settings on your GameCube.
So a new TV is delivered the following morning, along with anything else you bought from Squirt and Squirtle. And that still sounds dirty to me for some reason. With the next section of the anime, again I'll cover that towards the end, we can also guess what Pokemon will hatch from an egg channel. And yes, they actually expect you to watch the egg shaking for 5 minutes before it hatches. And then there's Smeargle's art gallery. Really, it's a still shot from the anime that the player colored Mario Paint style. Finally, we're able to go outside where Pokemon are wandering around, including in my yard. What are wild Pokemon doing in my yard? But instead of attacking and challenging you in your Pikachu to a fight, they ask trivia, and if you guess the questions right, they will give you a trading card, or money if you already asked this particular Pokemon. Of course, in pretty much every case, I wonder where they're keeping these cards. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure the only Pokemon that could have something that would resemble pockets is Genghis-Khan, who doesn't appear in this game as far as I can tell. Moving on, days 3 and 4 are basically the same deal, but day 4 starts with Pikachu having invited Trico and Torchic into the player's house without his knowledge or consent.
Pikachu, this isn't your house. You can't just invite people in. By the way, where's Mudkip?
I mean, we've been exposed to 2 other stars from the 3rd generation as friends of this Pikachu, and we can still find Trico and Torchic in other areas, so why is Mudkip so rare in this game? Maybe Nintendo's acknowledging the meme. Anyway, we got a few new channels, one of which lets you count Mareep. Yeah, personally, I prefer counting Snorlaxes. Also, Chum Chum Ranking, which basically boils down to yelling at you for not watching TV more often. And the last channel, before the last section of the anime at least, is Odd One Out, where the player can guess if there's an odd number of Oddishes or an even amount.
Is anyone else starting to notice the biggest flaw in this video game? The lack of gameplay!
Finally, something interesting happens on day 5. The final part of the anime goes missing. Apparently the Magnemite lost the disc that was supposed to go to the satellite transmitter. So you and Pikachu end up in some ancient ruins, and after getting past a very large Gengar and solving another trivia question, the disc is uncovered. As the final day comes to a close, Oak promises a special gift for being his guinea pig. And if you're playing the European version of this game, it's a Jirachi for the Ruby and Sapphire games. Everywhere else, it's just a visit from the rare Pokemon. You'll have to play the Colosseum game to get that. And here is where the anime will finally be talked about, as the game ends with you, Pikachu, and all 3 starters from Generation 3, oh, that's where Mudkip's been this whole time, get to watch the whole thing projected against the stars. As for the special itself, well, remember back when the Pokemon movies actually were theatrically released, and they would have a short involving the Pokemon misadventures away from their trainers? Well, Pichu Bros in Party Panic is basically the same thing. A pair of Pichu brothers and their posse learn of a party being held by Meowth. Long story short, they eventually get their hands on invitations, at which point we see Meowth's party, an unreleased demo for the GameCube they decided to include here. What I don't get is why Meowth doesn't take advantage of this situation and try to steal all the Pokemon for Team Rocket. His song seems to imply that's his goal, but he doesn't actually follow up on it. So not only did we waste our time, but Meowth wasted his too.
And that's that, I guess. Might as well see what else is on.
This kind of game actually is really popular among children in Japan, though porting it to other regions probably wasn't the best idea. There's very little to actually do, and I don't think it was worth making an entire game out of it. Really, it was much better not when we were watching TV, but going out and interacting with other Pokemon. Though even that was limited, and not just the whole trivia thing, but also in the animations. Almost every Generation 1 Pokemon used their character model from Stadium, which, I remind you, was an N64 game. These models, alongside the newer ones of the GameCube, lead to a rather uncanny valley feeling for the game.
And yes, that is putting the graphics technology of the time into consideration. Doesn't quite look right side by side.
Also, where exactly does the player live where they can take a bus to Viridian, Mount Snowfall, and Cobalt Coast? 3 locations from 2 different regions. But I don't think continuity was the biggest concern of this game. More so just keeping players entertained, which they probably did up to a certain age range.
So can I leave now?
Pikachu! Pikachu! Pika Pika! Pikachu!
Yeah, I guess. Listen to me, you puny human. You better not get any ideas about reviewing... No, I don't care how many death threats you send me. I am reviewing this and that's final.
I'm a master quest.
Star